You felt it before, though you might not have known how to name it. That strange electricity in the air, the unspoken current between two souls. A glance, a pause, a silence that feels heavier than words ever could. And you wonder, what is this? What is she hiding? Why do her eyes say one thing while her lips remain silent? Most men go through life deaf to this hidden language. They move fast, they speak too much, they fidget, they chase, they explain themselves. But women, they operate in layers. What she says is only the surface. What she shows, if you know how to read it, is the truth. And the truth is never loud. It doesn't walk up and announce itself. It whispers. It hides in the smallest of movements, in the way her body betrays what her mind cannot put into words. This is not about tricks. This is not about manipulation. This is about awareness, seeing what's already there. When a woman is struck by desire, her body speaks a language older than civilization. It's primal, it's instinctual, and she herself doesn't fully control it. That's why it's powerful. That's why, once you learn to see it, you will never unsee it again. Imagine being the kind of man who doesn't need to guess, who doesn't need constant validation or obvious words. Instead, you stand calm, composed, silent, yet fully aware of what's unfolding before you. That's the mark of a Stoic man. He doesn't chase confirmation. He recognizes what most miss, and he acts with patience, precision, and restraint. Now let's unravel this mystery. She will not tell you she wants you. She won't lean across the table and declare it. That's not how desire works. Desire leaks. It escapes through her fingertips, through her eyes, through her breath. And if you're blind to it, you'll miss it, like almost every man does. But if you're awake, if you're present, if you're in tune with yourself and with her, you'll see. The first sign, so deceptively innocent, is the way her hands betray her. She touches objects not because they matter, but because she cannot contain the energy swelling within her. She rolls her necklace between her fingers, taps the edge of a glass, twists her hair, strokes the rim of a pen she's not using. To the average man, this is nothing. Just a habit. Just fidgeting. But you know better. You see the truth. Her body is restless not because she's bored, but because you've awakened something in her. Here's the irony, the moment you point it out, you destroy it. Say, "Why are you fidgeting?" and watch her snap back into her head, embarrassed, self-conscious, the spell broken. A man who understands never breaks the moment. He protects it. He lets her drift in that state, giving her space to marinate in the tension. He doesn't rush. He doesn't laugh nervously. He doesn't comment. He stays still, calm, grounded. His silence amplifies hers until the energy between them becomes undeniable. Think about the psychology behind it. When a woman feels attraction but knows she cannot act on it directly, maybe because you're in public, maybe because it's the first encounter, her body finds substitutes. Safe outlets. A strand of hair. A straw wrapper. A bracelet around her wrist. These small movements release just enough tension to keep her from combusting, while simultaneously feeding the very tension she's trying to contain. Now here's the lesson for you: the man who notices doesn't move too fast. He doesn't kill the anticipation. He allows her to simmer. And when the moment comes that he finally decides to close the distance, she won't resist. She'll lean in, because she's already been primed by her own body for minutes, sometimes longer. In her mind, she doesn't give in because you forced it. She gives in because she couldn't hold back any longer. That's the power of awareness. That's the difference between fumbling and mastery. Between chasing and drawing her in. And this power, it isn't only about women. It's about life itself. Most people wander blind. They miss the signs the universe gives them. They're too caught up in their noise, their insecurities, their chatter. But the man who is still, who is present, who notices the small things, he is the man who wins. Now, the second sign, her eyes. Oh, the eyes never lie. You could strip away every word spoken and still know the truth by watching her gaze. She locks eyes with you, and in that moment, time bends. 1 second. 2. 3. The air grows heavy. Your heart beats a little louder. And then, it happens. She drops her eyes. To the untrained man, this is nothing. Just a glance away. But you know better. You know that in that drop of the eyes lies the oldest dance of desire. In the animal world, prolonged eye contact signals dominance. Looking away first is submission. But in the human world, when she locks onto you and then drops her gaze, it is both a surrender and an invitation. She acknowledges your presence. She accepts your lead. And yet, it is not weakness. It is tension. Her downward glance is her way of protecting herself from melting entirely in your presence. It's not timidity, it's heat. It's the body's natural response to intensity. And here's where most men ruin it. They look away too soon. They can't handle the silence. They make a joke to break the tension. Why are you staring at me like that? And just like that, the spark is gone. But the man who knows doesn't flinch. He stays. He holds her gaze longer than most would dare. He doesn't twitch, doesn't rush, doesn't let his nerves take the wheel. He stays calm, present, still. And when she finally looks down, he doesn't break instantly. He releases the moment on his terms, letting her feel that it was his choice, not hers. That is power. That is control. That is the masculine energy she craves. Think about what this says to her subconscious. Most men buckle under intensity. They can't hold the gaze. But you held. You stayed. And in her mind, a seed is planted. If he can hold me with his eyes, what else could he hold me with? That is not just attraction. That is intrigue. That is the kind of thought she will replay in her mind long after the night ends. I once sat across from a woman in a dimly lit bar. We were trading stories, laughter flowing easily. And then, mid-laugh, she stopped. Her eyes locked into mine. For a moment, the room disappeared. I didn't smile. I didn't move. I simply stayed. Seconds passed like hours. And then she looked down, traced the rim of her glass with her finger, and smiled to herself. That smile was not about the story we'd been telling. It was about the moment, the silent, charged, undeniable moment we just shared. A moment that lived not in words, but in the body. And so I tell you, women do not tell you outright. They reveal through signs. Through subtle betrayals of the body. Through whispers instead of shouts. And the man who trains his eyes, his presence, his patience, he becomes fluent in this language. He stops chasing. He stops begging for answers. He begins to move differently. Confident, grounded, unshaken. Because when you can read her lust in silence, when you can see the signs others are blind to, you no longer need her words. This is the way of the Stoic man. Self-controlled. Aware. Patient. Grounded in silence, yet powerful in presence. He doesn't chase. He doesn't brag. He doesn't fumble for validation. He knows. And in knowing, he becomes magnetic. There's a saying whispered through history, what is most powerful is often invisible. The strongest winds cannot be seen, only felt. The deepest emotions do not scream, they whisper. And so it is with desire. A woman's longing will never stand on the surface, it hides, it cloaks itself in gestures so small that the careless eye misses them entirely. But the man who sharpens his perception sees what others do not. Another signal reveals itself in her breathing. Watch carefully, and you'll see it. You're talking to her, maybe the conversation is light, maybe nothing serious has been said. Yet, her chest rises a little quicker, her breaths shallow and unsteady. Why? It isn't because the air is thin. It's because the energy you bring unsettles her balance. Her body reacts before her mind does. The inhale and exhale become irregular, betraying the calmness her words pretend to carry. Most men don't notice this. They're too trapped in their own anxiety. They're thinking, what should I say next? Did that sound clever? Am I doing enough? And in this frantic self-focus, they miss the shift happening right in front of them. But the Stoic man, he doesn't live in the future or the past. He exists only here, in this moment. His eyes notice. His spirit registers the invisible. And when he sees her breathing quicken, he knows. He knows her body is already leaning into the fire. But here lies the paradox, you do not point it out. You do not expose her vulnerability. If you say, why are you breathing so fast, you rip her out of the trance. Instead, you honor it in silence. You hold space. You let the rhythm of her body guide the atmosphere while you stay steady, grounded like a rock in the storm. This contrast, her rising waves against your unshaken calm, creates the polarity she cannot resist. Think of the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When her breathing grows unsteady, it is not an obstacle, it is the signal. It is the way. Her body tells you that the storm is inside her, and your role is not to chase it, but to anchor yourself so that she feels safe surrendering into it. Another sign, she touches her neck. Simple, innocent, but drenched in meaning. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. To expose it, to draw attention to it, is to unconsciously signal openness, submission, a willingness to be seen. When she brushes her hair aside, when her fingers linger at her collarbone, when she tilts her head just enough to bear that space, this is not random. It is instinct. It is her body saying, I trust you enough to let you see me here. And what do most men do? They miss it. Or worse, they mock it. They make the moment heavy with unnecessary words. But the man who is awake does not destroy the fragile threads of attraction with clumsy chatter. He simply observes, breathes, stays grounded, and lets her actions speak louder than words. You must understand something deeper, all of these signs are not strategies she's using to trick you. They are primal. They bypass her conscious thought. They belong to the oldest parts of her brain, the parts wired for survival, for reproduction, for connection. This is why she cannot fake them for long. A woman can fake words. She can fake a laugh. She can even fake politeness. But her body tells the truth. And once you learn to see that truth, you hold an advantage most men will never possess. You will no longer stumble through uncertainty. You will no longer wonder endlessly, does she like me? Am I enough? Her body will tell you. The whispers will be there if you dare to listen. But here is where I must remind you, this knowledge is not a weapon. It is not to be used recklessly, not to feed a fragile ego, not to manipulate. The Stoic man does not take advantage of others. He seeks mastery not to dominate, but to align with nature, to walk in harmony with truth. To notice her signs is not to exploit them, but to respect them, to honor her desire with patience, with restraint, with presence. There is another cue that reveals itself when she leans closer, even when she doesn't need to. Perhaps the room is not loud, perhaps the table is small enough that she could sit back comfortably. Yet she inches forward, just slightly, just enough that the space between you shrinks. This is not efficiency, it is magnetism. Her body is pulled toward yours, as if by gravity. And what do? You do not pull back nervously. You do not jump forward desperately. You remain calm. You let her lean. You let her choose closeness. Because in that act of leaning, she confirms what her words may deny, she wants to be in your orbit. This leaning is subtle, but it is profound. It mirrors life itself. People lean toward strength. They lean toward stability. They lean toward those who carry themselves with certainty. A woman leaning into your space is not just a sign of attraction, it is a reflection of the energy you project. If you are anxious, if you are restless, she will not lean. But if you are grounded, calm, unshaken, her body will drift toward you like a flame drawn to oxygen. Let me tell you something most men never realize: women are not attracted to chaos. They are attracted to clarity. They are not drawn to noise, but to silence that carries weight. They do not lean toward men who crumble under pressure. They lean toward the man who embodies composure, because in him, they feel the freedom to let go of their own chaos. Remember this: the greatest seduction is not in clever words or flashy gestures. It is in the quiet power of being unmovable. The oak tree does not chase the wind, yet the wind circles it endlessly. The mountain does not pursue the clouds, yet the clouds gather around it. The Stoic man does not chase. He embodies. And in his embodiment, he draws everything he seeks. Now, another sign, one that many misunderstand. She laughs more than the moment requires. A simple remark, not especially funny, yet her laughter lingers. Why? Because laughter is release. It is her body's way of channeling the tension that builds between you. It is less about the joke and more about the man who spoke it. Her laughter is not about humor, it is about chemistry. But once again, the untrained man ruins it. He takes her laughter as proof that he is a comedian, and he begins to perform. He tries harder. He chases validation. And in that chasing, he kills the very tension that gave birth to her laughter in the first place. The Stoic man, however, does not perform. He allows her laughter to exist, to echo, to flow, and then he returns to silence. He lets the weight return, lets the energy rebuild, lets her realize that she is laughing not because the world is funny, but because she feels alive in his presence. And perhaps the most intoxicating sign of all, the stillness that falls over her when words fade. There comes a moment in deep connection where conversation slows, where sentences dissolve, where both are simply there, in the silence. If she remains in that silence, if she does not run from it, if she allows the weight of that moment to stretch, then you know. Because silence is uncomfortable for those who feel nothing. But for those who feel deeply, silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is in that silence that the true energy between you becomes undeniable. Her body no longer hides. Her eyes no longer escape. Her hands no longer need a distraction. She simply exists with you, unafraid of the gravity in the air. And that is where desire lives, not in constant chatter, not in explanations, not in games, but in the quiet pull that words cannot reach. Understand this: all of these signs are not separate tricks, but pieces of a single truth. Attraction is not logical. It is not linear. It is felt. It bypasses reason, it bypasses the conscious mind. And when you learn to live in the present, when you train yourself to notice instead of overthink, when you embrace silence instead of fleeing from it, you will begin to see the world differently. Women will no longer be a mystery to you. Life itself will no longer be a blur. Because everything speaks. The universe itself is always whispering. But only those who are still enough to listen can hear. And so I remind you, stay calm. Stay grounded. Stay present. The signs are everywhere. In her eyes. In her hands. In her breath. In her silence. In the way she leans when she doesn't need to. These are not accidents. They are nature's oldest language. And once you learn it, you will never walk blind again.